All right, let's dive into a topic that is seriously splitting the gaming world right down the middle: NFTs. Are they the next big thing? The key to true digital ownership that finally puts power back in the hands of players? Or are they just a massive, high stakes gamble that's all dressed up like a game? We're going to break it all down. But first, let me ask you a question. Think about that one amazing sword, or that super rare skin that you spent hours, maybe even real cash, grinding for. Do you actually own it? I mean, really, truly own it? You probably feel like you do, but, well, the reality is a whole lot messier than you think. You see, to really get what NFTs are promising, we first have to talk about how gaming has worked forever. This is the world that, most of us grew up in and are super familiar with. So in any traditional game, you never really own your stuff. What you're actually buying is just a license to use those items within the game's world. The developers, they hold all the cards. They can decide to shut the servers down tomorrow and poof, everything you worked for is just gone. They can stop you from trading an item, even if it's super valuable. It's not really ownership, it's more like the illusion of ownership. But what if that could all change? This is exactly where NFTs make their grand entrance, promising to completely flip the script and finally give players real, actual ownership. And this right here is a huge shift in thinking. Instead of developers controlling everything from a central server, the idea is that players would own their digital assets. Your items wouldn't be trapped in just one game anymore. They could, at least in theory, travel with you. The core idea is just that simple. It stops being the company's property and becomes your property. So what's the big promise here, really? Well, it kind of boils down to four main ideas. First, you get true digital ownership, the concept that what you earn or buy is verifiably 100% yours. Second is provable scarcity, which means a developer can say, hey, there are only 100 of these legendary shields in existence, and you can actually prove you have one of the real ones. Third is this huge idea called interoperability. We'll get to that in a sec. And fourth, player monetization, the chance to earn real-world value from your skills and the time you put in. Okay, so let's talk about that big word, interoperability. What does it actually mean? It's this really game-changing idea that your digital items are no longer locked inside a single walled garden. It's the power for your stuff to move with you, from one game to another. Just imagine it for a second. That legendary sword you spent a month earning in one massive fantasy RPG, you could actually equip it and use it in a completely different sci-fi shooter. Or that one avatar skin that you just love, that feels like you. You could use it across tons of different virtual worlds. That's the dream, right? Assets that have real value and use way beyond the borders of just one game. Okay, so that is the big, exciting promise. But how does any of this stuff actually work? Let's take a quick peek under the hood. And don't worry, I promise we'll keep it simple. Here is probably the best way to wrap your head around it. Think of that NFT sword we were talking about like it's a digital trading card. You don't just own a picture of the card, you own the actual card itself, with all the ownership rights that come with it. It all basically works on three pieces of tech. First, there's tokenization, which is the process of turning a game item into a unique, one-of-a-kind digital token, an NFT. Then you have smart contracts, which are like the item's digital DNA. They define its stats, its history, even how royalties get paid out if it's sold. And finally, most of these games use something called hybrid storage, which is just a fancy way of saying they balance the intense security of the blockchain with the speed you need for a game to, actually be fun to play. And now it's time for a reality check. Because for all of this incredible promise, there is a massive, massive challenge. A fundamental conflict between the player who just wants to have fun and the market that just wants to turn a profit. The single biggest risk, the one that really hangs over this whole concept, is market speculation. This is what happens when an item's price tag becomes way more important than what it actually does in the game. Suddenly, the fun of playing is replaced by the stress of investing. And that right there is the trap. And you don't have to look far to see a perfect example of this: the incredible highs and the crushing lows. Let's talk about the game Axie Infinity. It's a truly fascinating case study. So, on the one hand, Axie created this super powerful model called play to earn. People were battling and breeding these cute little NFT creatures called Axies. And for some players, especially in countries like the Philippines, the income they were making was literally life-changing. It wasn't a game anymore, it was a full-time job and a real economic opportunity. But the whole model had a fatal flaw. The entire economy depended on a constant flood of new players coming in and buying Axes, which would pay the existing players. So when that flow of new people started to dry up, the market just tanked. The cost to even start playing skyrocketed, and people who had invested their life savings were under just immense financial stress. The dream had turned into this stressful, super unstable, hype-driven machine. And this really gets to the heart of the conflict, doesn't it? What's motivating the player? Is it fun, engagement, the joy of the gameplay? Or is it economic gain driven by market hype and a fear of missing out, or FOMO? That second path? Yeah, it might lead to profit, but it so often leads to stress, burnout, and at the end of the day, it can completely kill what made the game fun in the first place. When you look at the major criticisms, this all comes into focus. Market speculation is the biggest piece of the pie by far. That's the number one concern. Right behind it are fears about pay-to-win mechanics, where the richest players can just buy their way to victory, and that kind of economic instability we just saw with Axie. So, where does that leave us? Honestly, NFT gaming is standing at a major crossroads. And the path it takes from here is being decided right now, by developers, by players, and by the market itself. At the end of the day, the future of this whole thing really comes down to a delicate balancing act. How do you create a genuinely fun, meaningful experience for the player, while also building an economy that's actually sustainable? If you get that balance right, you could have a real innovation. But if you get it wrong, you just fall right back into the speculation trap. For this to have a real positive future, a few things need to happen. The NFTs have to enhance the gameplay, not become the reason for the gameplay. Fairness has to be a top priority, not pay to win. Developers have to focus on building real, sustainable economies, not just short-term speculative bubbles. And maybe most importantly, owning these items has to actually be fun and useful inside the game. Which brings us right back to where we started. Is this a brand new chapter for gaming? One defined by true player ownership and creativity? Or is it all just a financial fad, another bubble just waiting to pop? The wild thing is that the technology holds the blueprint for both of those futures. The one we actually get is going to be decided by the choices that developers and all of us as players make next.